1983, the tensest point of the Cold War, a Soviet submarine discovers a strange creature frozen in the ice of the Arctic. When one of the Firebird's crew breaks its free, it starts attacking. As crew strikes back, the 11th Doctor warns them that the attack could be considered a declaration of war on the entire Ice Warrior race. Welcome, friends and companions. How are you today? Sci-Fi Fantasy fans and all sort of fans meet on this channel for fun chats about the beloved books, movies, series, and franchises. We also talk about food and drinks, music and sport, and a special place on this channel for Doctor Who, my most beloved sci-fi series. This channel has multiple names. Yeah, it's regular regenerating actually, just like the Doctor. Most of the time it's called Random Entertainment Channel. Random, because we discuss everything that involves entertainment, including movies and series, books and music. Except for politics and religion. We don't do that on this channel. We want to have fun, laughter, and jokes. So we don't discuss and we don't dive deep into religion or politics. Yes, we want to have fun and entertainment on this channel. So, random because we broadcast on non-fixed times, actually on many different times. This is also the case with the Doctor. Doctor travels through time and space in his TARDIS in past, present, and future, in different galaxies, universes, parallel universes, etc., etc. So, and also the reason behind the broadcast on non-fixed times, because I want to meet as much people as possible in different time zones and countries. So I want to meet you. Yes, actually, I want to meet you. And yeah, I want to serve serve people as much people as possible. In fact, yes, that's the reason behind on the different times I broadcast on this channel. So you need to subscribe to this channel actually to know what time the broadcast is. Random also because we have no guests or different guests. It depends on join me in live stream or panel. If you want to join me in live stream, feel free to copy me via put a comment on one of the YouTube videos, or you can meet me and visit me on Discord server of the Random Entertainment channel. So and we look what is possible, and also it's possible to invite me for your channel for a live stream or panel. And I also want to contribute to you, and I want to make friends on your channel and talk about the things we like, we are interested in. So, in summary, you are invited for to take a place seat next to me, or you can invite me for your live stream or panel on your channel. Yes. The Discord server is called Random Entertainment Channel Tech Doctor Who on Discord, and you'll find me very quickly because I bump the server regularly. So cheers, mate, and have lots of fun. This is your host, Enigmatic Joker. Mystery, Enigma, Random, and Shuffle. Yeah. So, as you can see on the avatar, an 11th Doctor story today called Cold War. And as usual, first some general info about this story. So, Cold War was the 8th episode of Series 7 of Doctor Who. It saw the first televised appearance of an ice warrior since the monster of Paladin, 39 years previously. The monster of Paladin is in the third Doctor story with John Pertwee. The monster of Paladin, 39 years previously, the first time one was shown outside of his armor, and their first appearance in BBC Wales' production of the show. Also of note was the first physical appearance of David Warner in a televised adventure of the series, where previously would only take roles in the universe which featured his voice. This episode once again implies that wars are fluxing points in the timeline. Victory of the Daleks, the captor kept World War II from major change by confiscating leftover Dalek technology. So in this story, Doctor explains that history is full of times when all-out war can be triggered by a single spark. As something of a surprise, this episode is the first time that one of the Doctor's companions has actually listened to his order to remain where they are in a dangerous situation. By this point, the Doctor had come to accept no one listens to him until right before it's too late. Clara actually listening to him was a shock, which immediately set her apart from other companions. So that's some general info. We will dive now immediately into the plot. So for you, a spoiler alert if you haven't and or listened to this story yet, I highly recommend you to do that. Otherwise, you can decide for yourself to listen further to the plot. Yeah, but you are warned. Okay, again. It's the North Pole in the year 1983. Aboard a Soviet submarine, a warning repeats that the signal is genuine. Captain Zhukov and Lieutenant Stefasin use their case to prime an ICBM launch. They prepare to fire, but are interrupted by the entrance of Professor Grisenko, singing Ultravox Vienna. This means nothing to me. Oh, this means nothing to me. Oh, Vienna. You know that song? I know it. I have Ultravox CD here in my property. So the captain reports the drill has been abandoned. Stephenson says they must run it again. To which the captain says, tomorrow. The captain then asks the professor about the specimen, wondering if it's a mammoth. In the hold, the crewman in charge of the specimen muses that they are supposed to wait until the crew arrives back in Moscow to thaw the specimen out. However, he uses a blowtorch to thaw the block of ice until he's grabbed by a claw that emerges from the ice. Havoc erupts on the submarine. The hull has been breached and crew members are being attacked by a green armored figure. The TARDIS materializes in the midst of the chaos. As the captain orders the sub to be brought to the surface, the 11th Doctor and Clara are thrown across the bridge. Clara concludes they are not in Las Vegas, as they expected to be. The captain asks who they are while being informed by a crew member that the main turbines aren't responding. The doctor tells them their only chance to survive is to use the lateral thrusters in order to land on a ridge, which will prevent them from dropping further. The captain then orders the crew to do this. Crew members search the doctor and Clara, confiscating a number of items from his pockets, including a doll, a ball of yarn, and his sonic screwdriver. Unexpectedly, the TARDIS suddenly dematerializes. Clara falls into a puddle after a jolt rocks the sub, temporarily losing consciousness. When she wakes up, the doctor and the captain are arguing. The doctor defends his and Clara's arrival as a coincidence. Seeing that he must calm Zhukov, the doctor decides, okay, no psychic paper, no pretending to be an Earth ambassador, and explains the two of them are time travelers using the fact the TARDIS appeared from nowhere as proof. They are interrupted by a rasp noise coming from behind the doctor. He initially thinks it's gas, but then turns around to find the green armored figure. The professor explains it came out of a block of ice he believed held a mammoth. A shocked doctor tells him it's an ice warrior. Upon hearing Doctor mention that the creature is from Mars, Shikov balks at the idea of it being a Martian, but the doctor tells him ice warriors are soldiers that demand respect. Because Oton explain, the ice warrior is lashing out in confusion after being frozen for, as the doctor explains, 5,000 years. The doctor asks the warrior for his name, to which it replies, Rent Marshal Skaldak. The doctor is shocked to hear the name of this ice warrior. Stevenson sneaks up behind Skaldak and knocks him out with a kettle prod. Doctor berates Stevenson, telling them that Skaldak is the greatest warrior ever produced by the Ice Warriors. He warns the crew that their only option now is to lock him up. Now in change, Skaldak asks Onegin if he has been asleep for 5,000 years. The crewman confirms that this is what the professor said. Skaldak signals for his brothers to save him. In Zukov's quarters, the doctor explains that the ice warriors are native Martian reptiles that built suits to survive when Mars became too cold for them. A design flaw is that a sudden increase of heat will knock them out, hence why the kettle prod worked. The doctor always wondered why this has never been addressed. Skaldak was one of the Ice Warriors' finest being honored, to so much that his enemies would carve his name into their own flesh before death. Clara is shocked to hear this. However, Stephenson is not willing to believe in little green men. Instead, stubbornly believes that the doctor and Clara are Western spies, and that Skaldak is a Western weapon, a survival suit. He believes Moscow must be told so that they can retaliate. Zhukov only finds him annoying, ordering Stevenson to resume repair work on the submarine. The doctor tells the captain that if they had done nothing, Skaldak would have ignored them. However, one of their men attacked him. Harm one and you harm us all, is the Martian code. Skaldak will rain down hell just for laying a glove on him. The doctor points to the headphones on the professor's Walkman, where he can hear the sound of Hungry Like the Wolf being modulated by Skaldak's distress call. He says that he is the only one who can talk to Skaldak, but the captain is unwilling to risk his only source of knowledge. It can be the captain, as Skaldak will be able to tell he's an enemy soldier. Captain points out that the doctor seems like one as well, as it can be the captain, any of his men, or the doctor. Clara declares that she's the only choice. The doctor protests, but prepares Clara for the task. Clara approaches the restrained Skaldak, with the doctor coaching her through an audio link. She salutes him and recites a ritual greeting, followed by more of the doctor's words before her light goes out. The Grand Marshal speaks to the doctor directly and tells the story of singing the songs of the red snow with his daughter. The doctor tends to calm Skaldak by explaining that the Ice Warriors are still alive, but scattered all across the universe. However, Skaldak refuses to believe him, stating that no help will come from him. And Clara has been inching forward. She realizes something is wrong, discovering that the armor they have changed is now empty. Skaldak has left it. Skaldak says that it is time he studied his enemies and swears to retaliate. Doctor tells Clara to get out of there and begins to rush to her, but the captain pulls a handgun on him, thinking the doctor was cooperating with Skaldak and has betrayed them. Doctor tells him he's never seen one to do this before. He then adds that he's never seen one out of his shell before. The captain accepts this and lets him go. Professor says it should be more vulnerable without armor, but the doctor says it will be more dangerous to an ice warrior. Leaving its armor is one of the most dishonorable things it can do. He runs for Clara, who hears hissing and sees Skaldak rush by as she tries to open the hatch. The others reach her and the doctor pulls her through. She asks him how she did. The doctor says it wasn't a test, but she did great. Grisenko reports that the signal has stopped. Doctor says Skaldak has given up hope of rescue and now has nothing left to lose. Due to ice warriors living beyond the solar system, the signal is taking longer to reach them. However, um, um, wait. However, Skaldak does not know this, but instead believing he is the last of his kind. The captain is skeptical about what the Martian could do until the doctor points out that they're sitting on a large number of nuclear weapons. He says it couldn't be any worse. Just before the submarine slips a little further down the incline, and more water pours in. Skaldeck stalks Stephenson, who is making repairs. Stephenson pulls his gun, but he is facing the wrong direction. He feels spindly, three-fingered hands grab him by the shoulder and top of the head. Skaldeck learns about the Cold War and theory of mutually assured destruction from Stephenson, who wants to gain an ally to fight Western aggression. The captain addresses the crew. The reactor is drowned, they only have battery power and are running out of air. They have still a mission, however. They need to stop the Grand Marshal before he gains control of any of the missiles. They are all that stands between him and the destruction of the world. Clara learns from the doctor that time can be changed, and even if the world previously didn't end in 1983, it can now. The captain tells him that they have 12 men, but they can't find Stephenson. They decide to split up and look for him with a team to guard the bridge. When the captain questions the ID, the doctor retorts, "It's either that or wait here for him to kill us all." Lysenko turns up with a sonic screwdriver and a doll and gives them back to the doctor, who's quite happy to have them both. They begin the search as the doctor scans. Clara asks Lysenko why they have a cattle prod on board, and it is told that it is for polar bears. The professor tells her to save some courage and says he sings a song to stay brave. He asks if she knows Hungry Like the Wolf. She refuses to sing, comparing it to a musical number in Pinocchio. There are alarms and some echoes as the doctor tinkers. He says it's a pressure, and Grisenko begins to sing, trying to persuade Clara to join him. Wangin asks Benefich if he thinks it's truly a Martian. Wangin thinks they'll be heroes for discovering that there is other life out there in the universe, not just humanity. As Belevik replies, Skaldeck silently grabs Onegin, screams Echo, and the Doctor Clara and Grisenko arrive to find the two torn apart. The professor calls Skaldeck a savage, but the doctor explains that he's studying the humans for physical weaknesses. They continue the search, but Clara is slow to follow. Scanning for Skaldeck's location, the doctor gets a fix and tells Clara to stay with the professor. Clara agrees to do so. The doctor is momentarily confused by her willingness to follow his instruction, unlike most of his companions, then continues onward. So Clara confesses to Kresenko that she was bothered by the bodies. The captain realizes that Skeldeck is in the walls, thus avoiding attention. Doctor finds Stevenson's body, feeling sorry for him when he notices a photo of a woman in Stevenson's wallet. He then spots Skaldeck moving above him. He follows. Thus, the professor tries to distract Clara from worrying about the noises she's hearing. He keeps questioning her, but she continues staring around, barely answering. He very seriously demands to know about the future, specifically if Ultraflux will split up. She breaks out into laughter, then gasps as Skaldeck grabs her head. Lysenko produces a gun and shoots several times. Skaldeck lets her go, grabs him. Clara pleads with Skaldeck to let Lysenko go, as the doctor runs up. The Grand Marshal declares that they attacked him. By Martian law, this means that the people of this world are forfeit. He now has the information he requires to begin destruction. He only needs one missile to trigger the exchange. With his people dead and dust, there is nothing left for him but revenge. Skaldeck signals his armor, and the helmet flips up. The doctor tells him that there is one thing left: mercy. The captain enters with a crewman, threatening violence in defense of the Earth. The doctor says they're negotiating, not fighting. The captain replies that they will negotiate from a position of strength and aims his rifle. Skaldeck commends the excellent tactical thinking, but goes on to explain his position isn't as strong as he thinks. The armor has been summoned by Martian sonic technology. He releases the professor and enters his armor. They open fire, but the doctor stops them. Skaldeck vows to create a new red planet from the blood of humanity. The doctor follows him. Skaldeck extrudes probes from the glass of his armor into the targeting computers. Text flows, lights change, and locks shift. The missile tubes open. The others arrive, and the captain says that the warheads are being armed. The doctor asks him to wait, asking what the honor is in killing billions of innocent people. He continues to appeal to Skaldeck's better nature, but seemingly to no effect. As Skaldeck reaches for the button, he declares himself as a Time Lord with his own sonic technology. If he needs to, he will blow up the sub and everyone on it to avoid starting the nuclear exchange. The Martian mutters, mutually assured destruction, and turns back to the button as the doctor lifts the sonic screwdriver. The doctor taunts him to look into his eyes as Skaldeck removes his helmet, asking which of them will blink first. Clara asks Skaldeck why he showed compassion earlier, further asking about his daughter and when they had sung the songs of Red Snow. The submarine suddenly begins to vibrate. Skaldeck declares that his people live and have come for him. The doctor says they are rising, and the spaceship raises the submarine to the surface in a beam of cloudy white light. The doctor pleads with Skaldeck to just go in peace. Another beam hits Skaldeck and he disappears. Clara says they did it, but the doctor checks the console, which is still armed. One pulse from the Martian ship could launch the missiles. He odds up the sonic screwdriver, winching and repeating that he'll destroy them if he must. Frightened, Clara begins to quietly sing Hungry Like the Wolf. The missiles disarm. Clara hugs the doctor before straightening herself. Save the world, then, she says. That's what we do. The doctor, the captain, the professor, and Clara go up top and get a look at the Martian ship. Clara asks Doctor what happened to the TARDIS. Doctor sheepishly confesses that while thinking, he reset the heads, which he hasn't used in a very long time. He says it's bound to turn up as the sonic starts buzzing. The TARDIS has gone to the pole, the South Pole. Embarrassed, he asks the captain for a lift. They all laugh. The doctor salutes the Ice Warrior ship with an arm across his chest as it zooms off. And that, my friends, is the end of this story called Cold War. About I said that the doctor resets the heads, which he hasn't used in a very long time. That is, the heads is the hostile action displacement system. It is one of the defense mechanisms of the Doctor Stardust. For example, when the other shell of the vessel came under attack, the unit dematerialized Stardust and rematerialized it a short distance away after the attacker had gone. In a safe locale. We see that in the TV story The Crotons, for example. With second Doctor, Jamie and Zoe. And however, another function of this was a dispersal system instead of its usual displacement system, which would allow for the TARDIS to appear to actually being blown apart, but in fact remaining intact in various pieces with the shield still functioning in its original position. That's in the TV story, which is familiar with the 12th Doctor, Peter Capaldi. The heads had to be manually set, and the Doctor often forgot to do so. And could also be turned back on automatically by the TARDIS regeneration. We see that, for example, in the TV story Wild Blue Yonder with the 14th Doctor, David Tennant, and Donna Noble was his companion. So some things about that hostile action displacement system. Okay, the cast members. The Doctor is played by Matt Smith. Clara is played by Jenna Louise Coleman. Captain Zukov is played by Liam Cunningham. Professor Krisenko is played by David Warner. Lieutenant Stepasin is played by Thomas Menzies. Piotr is played by Josh O'Connor. Onegin is played by James Norton. Belevic is played by Jodie Anson. Skaldeck is played by Spencer Wilding. And the voice of Skaldeck is voiced by Nicholas Briggs. Some world building in individuals, 2 points. Clara says she doesn't speak Russian, and the Doctor's coat seems to have dimensionally transcendental pockets. In more stories, is that the case? Some world building TARDIS. The heads is activated for the first time in years. I already explained what heads is. Second thing is that the translation circuit also the translation circuit allows Soviets, Doctor and Clara and Skoldeck to talk to each other. Very also it's always the case with the TARDIS translation. Places. The submarine is in the ocean underneath the North Pole. Doctor and Clara were originally planning on going to Las Vegas, and the Doctor materialized at the South Pole after the heads were activated. Some will building songs, two things. The Dr. Prisenko listens to Vienna by Ultravox and sings Hungry Like a Wolf by Duran Duran. And I'm hungry like the wolf. La, la, la. Duran Duran also have a CD of Duran Duran. Second thing is that Clara Oswald sang Hungry Like the Wolf karaoke on a hen nights. Some well-being culture that Clara suggested singing to boost one's spirits would work if this were Pinocchio. Pinocchio. Another thing is that items, the Doctor has a doll that has long blonde hair. And the last thing in the well-being in influences is that Marguerite's pitched the episode as the hunt for Red October meets Alien. It took inspiration from films like Das Boot. Highly recommend those, like very highly recommendable to watch that movie, Das Boot. Actually, I have the DVD of Das Boot here. Okay, some story note. This is the first televised story to feature the Ice Warrior since The Monster of Peladon 1974, and the first not to be written by the creator Brian Hayles. Second thing is that this first time an Ice Warrior has been seen out of uniform on television. But it's not the first time fans have been able to speak behind the armor. Skoldeck's true face is remarkably similar, allowing for a difference in gender to Lee Sullivan's depiction of the female Ice Warrior, Luas, in the Eighth Doctor comic story Ascendance. However, the more tentacled hands of Skoldeck are less compatible with Luas' human-like hands. Third thing is that several aspects of Ice Warrior culture mentioned in this episode the existence of powerful female Ice Warriors, Skoldeck's rank as leader of a caste, and the general implication that Ice Warriors have a feudal sense of humor, for example, originate not with the Ice Warrior creator Brian Hayles, but instead with Gary Russell's reinvention in prose, legacy comic ascendance and comic descendants. Another thing is that the 1983 was indeed a point in which the Cold War could have very easily turned hot due to the Abel Archer 83 exercise that terrified the already paranoid Soviets. There were even several close calls throughout the year, including one famous incident were only the cool head of Soviet radar operator deciding that the missile that appeared on the screen was not a launch, but most likely an equipment malfunction prevented a full-scale nuclear launch. Another thing is that the submarine itself is identifiable as a Project 667 BD Marina M class, better known by its NATO reporting name of Delta II. Another thing is the submarine's name. The Firebird was possibly named after the 1910 ballet of the same name by Russian composer Igor Stravinsky. Mark Gatiss would later write another ice horror story called The TV Empress of Mars. That is a 12th Doctor story with companion Bill. That's introducing a female ice warrior in person, the titular character Erexa. Another thing is that this is the only episode of part 2 of Series 7 where there is no mention of Clara being the impossible girl. Like this, the only one not to have a connection to the overall story arc. Another thing is that Clara is the only female character in the story. The last time this occurred was the 4th Doctor serial, The Power of Kroll, where the Doctor's companion, Romana, was the only female character. And I think that Liam Cunningham was the first and only choice for Captain Zukov. Next, the interior of the TARDIS isn't seen in this episode. Another thing is that both Liam Cunningham and Tobias Menzies played important characters in HBO Game of Thrones. Sir Davos Seaworth and Lord Edmure Tully, respectively, while Mark Gatiss played Tycho Nestoris. Matt Smith would later play Daemon Targaryen in the prequel series House of the Dragon. Another thing is that both Matt Smith and Tobias Menzies would go on to play Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh in The Crown. Josh O'Connor also appears in a series as Prince Charles. And also, this is the first televised Ice Warrior story to not feature Sonny Coldiness, playing one of the titular Martians. Next, Liam Cunningham and Dave Warner had previously been candidates for the 8th Doctor. Next is that Stephen Moffat had originally been hesitant to bring back the Ice Warriors, worrying that they were seen as the default condition for what people thought of rubbish Doctor Who monsters, things that moved very, very slowly and spoke in a way that meant you couldn't hear a word they said. But Mark Gatiss, however, was a fan of the Ice Warriors stories and had been campaigning to bring them back. In a phone conversation with Stephen Moffat that was originally supposed to be about Sherlock, Mark Gatiss pitched new and very clever ideas on what to do with the Ice Warriors, and Moffat agreed. What sold Moffat were the submarine setting and seeing what the Ice Warriors looked like underneath their suit. Next, Mark Gatiss felt that the Ice Warriors had a lot of gaps in their timeline and had not been featured in a while, which allowed a lot of room to explore them. Another thing, in the original script, Skaldeck was a more complex creation. He was a time traveler from 33rd century who planned to provoke a nuclear war which would wipe out humanity, thereby preventing mankind from dominating Mars in his era. After mind controlling the Doctor's new companion at this point, a Victorian era governess named Beryl Montague, to further his scheme, Skaldeck was ultimately killed by one of the Russians. The surviving crew escaped to a British sub, the HMS Redoubt, while the sinking Soviet vessel was destroyed by the water pressure. That was an original script, but was later skipped. Another thing is that at one point, Captain Zukov and his lieutenant were rescued by a second Soviet submarine. Until a later stage, Grisenko was to play a villainous role, trying to preserve the Ice Warrior as a weapon for the Kremlin. Another thing is that for a time, Skoldeck sacrificed himself to destroy the submarine as nuclear payload. Another thing is that Mark Gatiss chose time period because he was kind of obsessed with the Cold War. He felt that there were several times in the 1980s where the danger was close. Next, several of the character names were devised in the reference to Russian history and culture. Lieutenant Stepasin nodded to Sergei Stepasin, who was Prime Minister of Russia in 1999 under Boris Yeltsin. Early drafts instead applied the surname to the political officer, who eventually became Belevich, and at this point the lieutenant was called Tsarko. Navigator was original Serovian before becoming Onegin, an allusion to Alexander Pushkin's first novel, Eugene Onegin. Captain took his last name from General Georgy Zhukov of the Red Army, who had been instrumental in the liberation of Eastern Europe from the Axis powers during the Second World War. Among other things, that the submarine was Mark Geddes' idea. I felt that the series got out to be set on a submarine. Another thing is that Caroline Skinner described the story as letting a huge ice warrior loose at the heart of a classic hunt for Red October style submarine um, movie. Another thing is that the episode comprised block 5 of season 7. And for the submarine setting, the cast would be spread in between every take. Another thing is that the scenes in which the characters are drenched in water were achieved by constantly pouring gallons and gallons of water on the cast. Then Louis Coleman found the experience fun, while Matt Smith said that it made acting easier. Coleman said the whole makeup process was reversed as it will damp us down in the morning and rub my mascara off. oh, Another thing is that the last stage of production for the episode involved the underwater shots of the Firebird exterior. It had been decided that the submarine would be released, realized as a model rather than via computer animation in order to provide a better sense of weight and presence. Mike Tucker and his company, the Model Unit, filmed these sequences at Halliford Film Studios in Shepperton, and the model was suspended upside down with shredded feathers blown at it to give the effect of being under the sea. Another thing is that unlike some other returning monsters, the Ice Warriors were not heavily redesigned. Marquez insisted upon keeping the fundamentals of the original, and Stephen Moffat explained that the original design was not well enough to put a new spin on it. And so Skeldeck shell is just a super version of the original. Next is about the next Ice Warrior costume was constructed by Neil Gorton and his team at Millennium FX. While respecting Mark Geddes decided to suit you as closely as possible to the original Ice Warrior design, Gorton effected some changes to make the armor more credible. The hands had divots rather than clamps. Proportions were better balanced, and the tufts of fur were removed. Indeed, some ways the overall conception of the new Ice Warrior better adhered to Brian Hill's original version of the Martians as partly cybernetic creatures. Another thing that um, to accommodate the massive Ice Warrior costume as well to provide more space for cast and crew, scenes about the Firebird would largely have to realize uh, really in the okay. As I've also mentioned, the Ice Warrior costume was made of flexible urethane rubber instead of the fiberglass like the original, as it will damage less easily and be more comfortable to wear. The composite costume was made specifically to fit Spencer Wilding. The only some of Zelda's reappearance was shown on screen. Neil Gorton stated that they created a full animatronic body. Although David Garner approached Mark Guinness about a possible role in the series. Next is that to the greatest extent possible, the team was determined to use practical effects. Consequently, many of the sequences involving the unarmored Skaldeck were achieved using a puppet. Next thing is that Mark Geddes pitched two different episode ideas, one featuring the return of the Ice Warriors and one set aboard a submarine. Stephen Moffat suggested that he combine both ideas. And last thing is that Mark Geddes described the episode as a love letter to the base under siege stories of Patrick Troughton, the second Doctor. And last but not least, the continuity. Because in the universe, stories and episodes are, to some extent, related to each other, are from influence to each other, are linked to each other. Yes, in some ways related, linked, and it's always an interpretation. But I have a few points of continuity. First thing, during his second incarnation, Doctor encountered the Ice Warriors for the first time on the Britannicus base during an ice age, in the company of Jamie McCrimmon and Victoria Waterfield. As happened here, that involved an ice warrior being frozen in ice, being found by a scientist, and then thought out by someone who was impatient. Both scientists also mistook their ice warriors for prehistoric Earth creatures. We see that in TV story, The Ice Warriors. The Doctor states that the TARDIS hostile action displacement system hasn't been used in donkeys years. We see that in TV story, The Protons. And that is also with the second Doctor, but with Jamie and Zoe. Another thing is that when describing how the TARDIS work, how the heads works, Doctor mentions time wins as reason why the heads moves the TARDIS. You see that in TV story Warriors Gate, and that is a fourth Doctor story with K9, Mark II, and Romana the second, and Edric. Next thing, when describing how the heads work, Doctor mentions time. Okay. When the Doctor threatens to blow up the submarine, the diode on the sonic screwdriver glows red. And when whether this is previously mentioned red setting, you see that in Silence in the Library Forest of the Dead, with the 10th Doctor and David Tennant and Donna Noble. So this mentions red setting is not stated. Another thing that Clara questions how she can understand others around her, and they understand her, to which the Doctor explains that TARDIS translates foreign and alien languages. We see that in the end of the world, that is with the 10th Doctor, and the fires of Pompeii, also with the 10th Doctor. Okay. Another thing is that when Clara states that the planet was not destroyed by nuclear war in 1983, the Doctor tells her that time is in flux and can be rewritten. You see that, for example, in the fourth Doctor story, Pyramids of Mars. Yes, that's the fourth Doctor and the companion Sarah, and the main enemy Sutek. Also, we see it also that the time is in flux and can be written in unquiet death. And in the Shakespeare Code, The Waters of Mars, and in the Wedding of Readiness Song, and all more episodes that actually deal with that. By the way, the Shakespeare Code is an 10 Doctor story. The Waters of Mars is a 10 Doctor story, and the Wedding of River Song is the 11th Doctor story with Amy, River, and Rory. So, another thing that Doctor again shows admiration for Ice Warriors for their code of honor. It's also in the TV story Waters of Mars. But also, yeah, then Doctor, I already said that. While in third incarnation, John Pertwee had the doubts on their integrity. He came to see how honorable they could be. TV story The Curse of Paladin. Another thing is that Doctor at one point tells Clara to stay there, to which she says, okay. Doctor tells her not to argue, and she says she won't. Doctor stops in his tracks, almost shocked that she actually obeyed him. He once said that in 900 years of phone box travel, having companion follow his instructions to stay put would be only thing that surprised him. Uh, she for a link to the empty child. It's a nine doctor story with Rose and featuring Jack. Another thing is that the size of the items taken out of the doctor's pocket shows that they are bigger on the inside, much like the TARDIS interior. For example, there's a link to Genesis of the Daleks, the fourth Doctor Tom Baker, and the Runaway Bride with 10 Doctor David Tennant. Another thing is that there are a variety of items in the Doctor's pockets, including a doll, a caramel, apple, and jar. The 11th Doctor was previously running about knitting. You see that, for example, if he stored the wedding of River Song. And he also had commented that he has given up asking how things end up in his pockets. That's in the TV story The Angels Take Manhattan. Another thing is that despite being a high-ranking officer, Skaldeck wears an ordinary warrior's armor rather than the sleeker version of an Ice Lord. However, this is consistent with Varga, who also came from thousands of years prior to this time. We see it in the TV story The Ice Warriors. That's also with the second Doctor and Jamie and Victoria. And all other things that the Ninth Doctor previously encountered another alien stuck on Earth and believing its entire race to be extinct. You see that in TV story Dalek. Next thing is that when they started to tell truth about who and Clara, he and Clara are, the Doctor references having pretended to be an Earth ambassador. We see that in TV story The Curse of Paladin with third Doctor John Pertwee. Next thing is that Doctor tells Skaldeck that his people are alive and will persist into the far future. It's also the TV story The Curse of Paladin and the Monster of Paladin. The Paladin Tales with the third Doctor. And last thing in continuity, another Ice Warrior has previously stated that to harm one Ice Warrior is to harm them all. That's a link to audio story called Vengeance. And that, my friends and companions, is all I have to say about this story. So now some commercial. Sci-Fi Fantasy fans and all sort of fans meet on this channel for fun chats about their beloved books, movies, series, and franchises. We also talk about food and drinks, music and sport, and a special place on this channel for Doctor Who. Random, because we'll discuss everything that involves entertainment, including movies and series, books and music. Random, because we'll broadcast on non-fixed time, actually many different times. You need to subscribe to this channel to know what time the broadcast is. Random also, because we have no guests or different guests. It depends on show me in a live stream or panel. If you want to show me in a live stream, feel free to contact me via Discord or YouTube. I will look what is possible. And also it's possible to invite me for your channel to do a live stream in a panel with you. I also want to contribute to your channel, so feel free. I want to meet you. Looking forward. So Discord server is called a Random Entertainment Channel Tech Doctor Who. So cheers, mate. Have lots of fun. Your host, Enigmatic Joker. That's me. So for now, yeah, I'm looking forward to meet you. So have a nice day, everyone. Bye bye. Bye bye. See ya.